Hello everybody. Welcome back to the channel where we talk about stuff. So, yeah, recently there was a question that not that it never popped into my head, but it was something that I thought was kind of farther away into the future. Recently, Michael Saylor, the same guy who owns like 9 quadrillion Bitcoin, the company MicroStrategy as well, who recently also announced that they just bought $600 million worth of Bitcoin like 3.5 weeks ago. You know, no big deal. He was asking people on Twitter, how high does Bitcoin have to go before you actually consider selling it? The idea being, if Bitcoin is this price right now, and Bitcoin happens to double next year, or what have you, would you sell? Would you find it a good time to relinquish your Bitcoin? What happens if Bitcoin then does a 3x from there? Would you then sell your Bitcoin? What happens if we end up getting to the year 2028 and Bitcoin is $650,000 per coin? Would you feel bad that you sold your Bitcoin when it was 120,000 as opposed to 600,000? And the other idea is that for those of you who just haven't been here for the last couple of years or paying any kind of attention to the cryptocurrency space, is that you can already technically buy nearly everything with Bitcoin, like online. Sometimes you got to snake around certain websites and do certain things and get gift cards, what have you. But it's kind of basically possible to pay for everything with Bitcoin. And then we also saw a number of initiatives a couple of years ago with the New York Stock Exchange and Backed, BAKKT, and a bunch of other companies who are trying to get like Bitcoin integrated into their systems. We see Visa and MasterCard doing the exact same thing for those of you who also missed those videos. So the generalized idea is that, also, if you have a cryptocurrency exchange, they also all have Visa and MasterCards. So if you have crypto on these websites, you get issued a card and you can walk around and tap your card and you can pay for things in crypto. But a lot of people are more reluctant to kind of sell or give away their Bitcoin because it's like, it's Bitcoin. We get crazy predictions all the time as to where the price could go. And then eventually, as I said in the last video, for those of you who were paying attention, we probably have about a good another 120 or so years, at least with Bitcoin. So what happens in the year 2050? How high is the price of one Bitcoin? Would you then consider at that point being like, okay, I'll start selling off some of my Bitcoin, but then when Bitcoin's price goes over $500,000 to $1 million, it's basically strong enough at that point to be like a super world currency that everyone technically already can use it, but you understand what I'm saying. So at that point, would you be willing to buy things with your Bitcoin, or would you still be reluctant and hold on to it in expectations that the price is going to rise higher? It's a very weird discussion to kind of have because no one knows what's going to happen to this market. But the expectations are that as we've seen over the last price cycles, that prices would mathematically continue to rise as Bitcoin's halving happens. The demand continues to rise. People around the world are figuring out that they should have Bitcoin. They're buying Bitcoin. They're holding on to their Bitcoin. And then the amount of Bitcoin that gets created continues to fall and fall and fall. And then it's like, well, if it's 50,000 today and goes up to 200,000, where does that leave us in the next 15 years? Is it $2 million? That's what I found interesting. Almost called him MicroStrategy. I mean, kind of the same. MicroStrategy Michael Saylor was asking people on Twitter, what's their number? What's the number where you're going to be like, okay, I think I'll start to get rid of it. Apparently a larger portion than I was imagining said $100,000 is their number. As in, like, we have received price predictions for like April and May of next year, 2024, that Bitcoin will go over 100,000 before we even get to 2025. And these people say they would sell around the time of the halving, which I found weird. I don't want to make anyone feel bad, but I just didn't understand the idea of if the price is going to go higher, why you would sell so early. 36% of people said that they're actually waiting for anywhere between 250,000 to $500,000 per coin before they're like, okay, I'll start selling some of it. And then another, where's the number? 36% of people, I think that's what it is, yeah, indicated a price range from $1 million to I am never selling any of my Bitcoin, which I thought would be the vast majority of people, but it actually ended up being the people who said $100,000 as their actual selling point. When, if ever, do you plan on selling? Would you sell? Do you plan on holding for a very long time? I know we have a couple of, I'm certain, we must have some maximalists out there, or even just normal people who aren't. Like, you don't even have to be a Bitcoin maximalist. You can have tons of other altcoins, but I think the fear of being the pizza guy is quite strong. The fear of where a lot of this could go. It's kind of similar to, I remember reading something years ago about apparently, so what I read, they were saying it wasn't until the actual 1990s, around 1998, when the first like REITs and other things began to pop up for real estate. The idea was that real estate wasn't really an asset class before the beginning of the 90s. It was seen as something, of course, that could produce money, but it wasn't seen as something that could like produce money, where you were able to constantly raise the rent and, you know, the value of your property went up year on year on year on average. So the idea was that if you bought property in the 60s and 70s, like a lot of property, and kind of held on to it, you couldn't have imagined how rich you would be now in the present, or how much money you would be able to distribute to your heirs for the future. And I think we're kind of at the cusp of that as well with Bitcoin, where a lot of the generalized idea, especially as we hear from BlackRock and Fidelity and all these other like very wealthy individuals who are getting into the space, basically talking about like, yeah, the price is, you know, 40K something right now. Like Cathie Wood once again recently just said, grain of salt time. Cathie Wood said that by 2032, she's expecting a $1.4 million Bitcoin. Now, I'm not sure about you, but if I had anything, it could be a rock, it could be why a rock? It could be a house, I don't care what it is, that was 40,000, and then in like 8-9 years, it went up to $1.4 million, but I sold early, I'd be pretty upset. But there's also like, there's always a number for everyone. At some point, if Bitcoin goes to $1 million, many of you are going to be like, I would like to buy a house. I would like to buy this. I would like to, you know, use the money that I actually have. It's a very interesting time to be in the cryptocurrency space. Hindsight is going to be very 2020 in the year 2026. When we see exactly how high prices go, I always have that problem where I see exactly how high prices went and I'm like, oh yeah, well, that makes sense. Like, of course, it was only going to go that high, but the expectations are quite to the moon at this point, where people think these things are going to go. And I'm always interested to hear if people plan on selling at all. I do sincerely hope that you have all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and or supporting, and I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.